Hello and welcome to Think Watercolour. Today's demonstration is all about how to simplify a scene in a reference photo and to interpret it in your own way. This is a photo I took recently of a Cornish harbour at low tide. It's a cloudy but bright day, so there is some contrast and there are some shadows, which both help to add depth and definition to the image. The white boat to the right made an ideal focal point, with the red of the other boat and the buoys leading the eye across the image. Then the harbour wall and the foreground ropes create leading lines into the painting. So let me talk you through how I did it. This is a block of Baohong 12" by 9" 300-gram pure cotton rough paper. It's my favourite alternative to Saunders Waterford, which I normally use. And I've drawn the image keeping the detail focused on the foreground, as I want the distant buildings to be loosely painted so as not to draw the eye away from the main focal point, which is the boat in the foreground. I've raised the block to a slight angle and I'm starting with the sky. This is a mixture of lavender and a little cobalt blue. And I'm leaving gaps in the clouds and softening edges with clean water. Next I'm using the same colour mix for the wetter parts of the harbour floor. And then adding weak mixes of raw sienna and sap green for some variety. For the shadows and the first wash of the shallow pool of water, I'm using a mixture of sepia and Van Dyke brown. For the harbour wall I'm using sepia and ultramarine blue, letting them blend wet in wet, and the same for the shadows around the boats. For the distant hills, I've mixed some sap green and some ultramarine blue, and then just adding a little more blue to loosely indicate the buildings, leaving some of the white of the paper unpainted. This creates the illusion of buildings without getting too detailed in the background. The initial washes are now dry, and I'm beginning to add more darks using sap green and ultramarine blue to build contrast. And I'm darkening the shallow water with sepia, and I'll come back later when that wash is fully dry and I'll add some blue to suggest reflection of the sky. For the shaded parts of the red boat, I'm using a mix of cadmium red and alizarin crimson. And for the hull of the middle boat, I've added some cobalt blue to the same mix. This is a neutral grey for the shadows on the white boat. And here I'm darkening the base of the harbour wall, working wet in wet and adding some burnt sienna. And for some foreground interest, I'm using the side of my brush to pick up the texture of the rough paper for some grey dry brushwork. Now that the initial washes are finished, I can start to add some of the darker details, and this is a rigger brush with some neutral tint. This is cadmium red for the lighter part of the red boat's hull. The underside of the white boat is cobalt blue. And I'm now darkening some of the shadows to get the values right for the contrast in the painting. Here I'm just suggesting a couple of distant boats without adding any detail, so that they remain part of the background. I'm now at the stage where I can begin to add foreground details to bring the painting to life. Ladders along the harbour wall, some steps, stonework detailing, final details on the boats, masts, harbour wall railings, and the ropes all help to complete the composition. I'd like to say that I paint in a variety of styles, and in this painting I've tried to keep things fairly loose. I'm just putting in a suggestion of what's there in the details without painting every joint in the harbour wall or every part of the railings and steps, etc. If you're new to watercolours, do try different ways of painting to find your own style. Here I'm using just some sap green to add some seaweed clinging to the ropes and lying on the harbour floor. Now I'm painting the buoys in neat cadmium red. They really add the final details to draw the eye across the painting. A few touches of white gouache bring back some of the white detailing here and there too. Here I'm just adding another red buoy just to complete the painting. In the reference photo there's a yellow buoy here, but I thought I'd make it red just to draw the eye across the painting, and it just finishes it off for me. And finally, a touch of blue to the shallow pool creates the illusion of reflection in the water. And then I think I'm pretty much done. Now that the painting's completed, you can see why I've kept the distant details of the buildings and those boats at the other end of the harbour fairly vague, so that the eye is not drawn to them. They're just background, and the main focus is the white boat and the buoys leading to the red boat, and the harbour wall and the ropes lead the eye into the painting. They create leading lines. I think it's quite a nice composition overall. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it useful too, and if you did, do give it a like. It really helps with YouTube. And if you're not a subscriber, do subscribe and hit the notification bell for future videos. As I've said many times, I do try and post around once a week. And thanks again for watching.